Hey everyone, this is Alex from CheckMathPoker.com. Today we are gonna review some high-stakes action played a couple of days ago on PokerStars. These hand histories are kindly presented by hhsender.com. These guys are in hand histories business since 2008 and they really know their stuff. So if you plan on studying hand histories from any stakes, make sure to check them out. There is also a link in the description below. I want to make it clear, all these high stakes rigs are most likely better players than I am. I've never played that high on a regular basis, but we're gonna use our CheckMath tool to cut the skill difference to a minimum. We can see what GTO plays should be in just a couple of clicks and try to understand how often and how far these guys deviate from it and reasons behind it. We plan on making this type of hands review every couple of days, so if you're interested in this type of content, let us know by subscribing and liking this video. So for starters, let's review who were the biggest winners and losers at 25, 50 and higher on stars during first couple of days of May. Oshpil won the most, even though some of his plays were somewhat questionable during this period. We are gonna review some of his hands. Sengale for Rabman won 19k in just 131 hands. Must be nice. Jacer, Born to Tilt, and losers are Balik, Zas 91, a couple of recreational players, Stefan. Okay, so let's jump to the first hand. So let's start with a couple of All-Spiel hands. This is four-handed action between regs, and this hand starts with 4-6-4 raising 2.2 blinds from the cutoff and gets a standard 3-bet from ace-queen suited on the button. 4-6-4 opens around 25% here. We can choose this range, but from my personal experience playing with Oshpil, he 3-bets a bit wider than average on the button, so we're gonna give him 13% range and assume 4-6-4 defends optimally against that range. He calls, so let's choose ace-queen suited for the button. And flop 3-bet. So on the flop, small c-bet is fine here. We can certainly check as well if these are pretty similar. And he gets 50% raise from 4-6-4. We can immediately see that IP player is not happy here with the situation. Expected value is pretty low, but calling is still much better option than anything else. He goes ahead and calls it. It's pretty interesting turn. It completes a lot of gotcha type of bluffs for 4-6-4. Let's recalculate here on the turn and give it the exact pot and effective stack. And 50% bet for out of position on the turn. And we can immediately see that ace queen seems like a pretty straightforward fold here on the turn. We will see EVs in just a moment when it finishes the calculation. Yeah, so it's minus $58 for the call, and interestingly enough, raising all in has higher EV than calling. That is because by shoving we deny equity for 4/6/4's bluffs with his flush draws. He should fold them on the turn against the raise, or make a substantial mistake by calling. You can see that it's minus $368 to call a shove with his combo draws. So if Ospiel calls here, and he did call, he must think that 4/6/4 is over bluffing here on the turn, and he does it with combinations that are pretty dead, like 5/4 of diamonds or something like that, and he wants to give those combos a chance to bluff off on the river. It's pretty tough for 4/6/4 here to overbluff. We can see that he is allowed to bet almost his entire range on the turn here, because 10 really helped his range and completed a lot of gut shots like ace jack and check 9. His bluffs have a lot of equity, like ace 4 and ace 3 of spades. And he did choose pretty good sizing. That's what solver actually recommends. That's the sizing it chooses between many others. So really tough to justify this calling for Ospiel. Seems like a mistake. River is a 7 of diamonds. 4/6/4 shoves. And Ospiel has a decision again. And I think calling river is a much better play than calling turn if he doesn't do it 100% of the time. Here, solver has it as a fold, but keep in mind that its weight is really small here. If Ospiel knows he has a substantial amount of ace queens here, he should defend them at reasonable frequency, just not to make things worse for him and allow opponent to auto-profit with his bluffs. Everything missed, and ace queen still beats 4/6/4's bluffs, so calling river at least some percent of the time is not bad here. I think this is a situation that every poker player can relate to. Instead of relatively easy fold on the turn, we now find ourselves in a tough river spot where everything missed and we have to play a guessing game with a combo that probably should not even be in our range on the river. That's why avoiding making mistake early in the hand is so important. because one mistake drags another and we lose a lot of EV. You probably guessed that he called it on the river as well, and 464 shows up with the goods and takes more than 100 BB pot. His play is super standard, nothing to analyze here really. Well played by 464. Nice choice of sizing on the turn that made Ospill make a mistake. This was really precise sizing from 464. Next hand is really interesting. It's played on 50-100 table, thus 91. Not enough hands on him. Let's assume he opens standardish 47% from the button, although it's lower in my sample, but not enough hands to trust it. Our friend Ospill flats, he is super wide here. Let's open this spot in CheckMath real quick. So flop is pretty good for a7, but it's not great for overall IP range. You can see that it should be checking back 60% of the time. So if you're on the big blind here and you think your opponent is autopiloting, raise his c-bets pretty wide. We can see that it's already wide by the default, around 15% raise, but you can raise even wider than that. Just don't forget to follow up with aggression on the turns. Ospill does raise this bet, and now thus makes very good play and 3-bets flop. He is blocking top set and combinations that big blind could be using for bluff shoving here. We can see that it's mainly 7-6. There are no other combo draw type of hand Ospill can 4-bet shove with, so that's not a big concern for a7. There is a possible straight on the board after all, so even sets can't feel 100% comfortable shoving. Solver does this re-raise only in 8% of the cases, but if thus suspects villain overbluffing against his c-bet, re-raising at a bit higher frequency may have higher EV, so I like this play from thus occasionally. Ospill goes ahead and calls. Turn is 9 of hearts, and thus continues value betting his 7 with around 65% pot. Let's recalculate it with exact pot and effective stack, and let's give us 65% bet on the turn. So we can immediately see that Solver prefers smaller sizing with this combo to keep all these 3-5, 3-6 type of hands in play for out of position here. But maybe Zas knows Ospill better, thinks he will stick with these combos against bigger sizing as well, and makes exploitative bet. Maybe he thought he represents very strong hand better this way and plans on checking back any river pretty much except for an ace. Now, river is a jack of spades, and it's super interesting because solver actually suggests shipping a7 here for value. And by seeing Auspiel in that ace-queen hand, I'm pretty sure he would find a lot of calls here with 4-5, 4-6 type of hand. You know, blocking set, straight. 10-8 is highly unlikely. Let's think about bluffing combos Zos has here. All 16 combos of ace-5, ace-6, a bunch of ace-2 suited, 8-6 suited, 8-5 suited. Thus, bluff 3-bet on the flop will not consist hands with 9 or jack very often. So these cards are pretty irrelevant. They both don't have them very often. So you look at a7 and it's just third pair on the board, but in reality its value is much higher than it seems. Everything missed. Auspiel's hand looks as some pair plus gotcha type of hand that Zos can try to fold out on the river. So in order to bluff here on the river at decent frequency, Zos should value bet pretty thin. And if you think about it, a7 beats a good portion of calling hands. Yeah, on the river, blocking 7 is not great since Auspiel can have less 7-5, 7-6 combos, but Zos just doesn't have too many other one-pair value bets on the river. He doesn't re-raise jacks through aces on the flop probably. On the top of that, if a7 is good enough to ship against perfectly balanced out of position range, it gets even better against opponent that likes to bluff catch, to over bluff catch. So shoving a7 seems like a very strong play. And if Auspiel does over bluff catch here, his overall strategy will be in trouble. But Zos probably had a plan of betting big turn and checking back river. So he did check back here. Let's see what Auspiel hold here. 3-5 of diamonds. So he did probably expand his flop raising range. And let's see if that's a call on the turn against 65% bet. 3-5 of diamonds is 100% fold. In solver's opinion, it has minus $386 on the turn here. So these factors lead me to believe shoving a7 here on the river has even higher EV. So another hand, 25-50 forehand action. Rigs are going after each other. Raise from Jaser. Stefan with a standard call. Flop comes 3-2-2. Rainbow. This is a very low frequency c-betting flop for IP, and they are a little bit deeper than 100 BB, so it should probably be even lower than that. Stefan has way more to X here against 2.5x open from button, so IP should not get out of line here. that's out of position range here. See how many twos he's got, and in position has a big advantage in over pairs, of course, but 2 is very strong here, so Jacer does see bet flop. But we see that it's surprisingly not far from folding, actually. Stefan calls and turn is 8 of clubs. Jacer bets pretty big. Let's recalculate it. Jacer bets around 75% on the turn. It's pretty good sizing from Jacer, and straightforward call from Stefan. Now river is where things get interesting. Jacer chooses full pot sizing here, which is certainly okay. And Stefan ships it. If we look at his strategy, we can see that Ace-8 alongside Ace-3 are best fits raising river here. Dare I say GTO. He is blocking 8 for 8's full to pair with King 8, and very importantly blocking Ace for aces and Ace-2. The other combo that does pretty much same blocking job is Ace-3, but we have less combos of it since we would like to raise it on the flop to deny equity at least some percentage of the time. That's where we should be careful, because you can be bluffing with all your Ace-8 combos here. It's such a big part of our range, since we almost never raise it on the flop, always have it pre-flop, always flat flop and turn. We get here with almost all combinations from pre-flop, so when choosing between 2 of them, keep in mind how many combos you have of your bluffing candidate. If it's lower weight like Ace-3, you can bluff it higher frequency on the river. And if it's one of the heaviest combos here, you see that Ace-8 really one of the combos that has very high presence here in our range on the river. You should be careful not to over bluff with it. Solver suggests shipping in 23% of the cases. That's pretty high frequency raise. So Jacer did call with King 8, unlucky. For Stefan, I think it was very nice bluff by him. Good job spotting pretty much perfect bluffing combo. Last hand for today happened like 30 minutes later. Stefan and Jacer go at it again. We will cover Stefan's hand now. Pre-flop, Stefan opens 2.2 blinds and Jacer defends King 10. Flop is 8 for 2 rainbow, 2.2x out of position for Jacer. Stefan checks back. Turn is where things get interesting. Solver suggests betting small for out of position here with this combo, but checking is fine as well. Jaser checks and Stefan bets 75%. Queen is pretty good card for his range. He's got a bunch of Queen X, and Jaser decides to attack his capped to 1 pair range with his King 10 combo containing King of Spades. That is pretty important since it reduces amount of hands Stefan bet calls with and may allow Jaser bluff Spade Rivers profitably. He's choosing pretty big sizing, which is fine. I guess if you decide to bluff, but King 10 seems like too wide nevertheless. Let's input proper sizing for out of position raise. So Solver has it at minus 100 bucks EV. The problem with King 10, it can be drawing very thin against Queen X hands Stefan has, or even drawing dead against King Queen. Stefan is a very aggressive player. I used to play with him quite a bit at lower stakes than this. His style used to be hyper aggressive, like he likes to make delayed c-bets as a bluff and stuff. All these factors could make Jaser attack this bet. But I think Queen is not a great card for that, and you see Stefan is allowed to bet around 42% on this turn. This is pretty good card for him, and combo selection is not great I think for Jaser. It doesn't matter how aggressive player can be in general, but if his range is strong enough in certain spots, you would normally want to pick up some other situation to try and exploit someone's excessive aggression. So Stefan calls and river is complete brick. What would Jaser do? Not very bluffy spot, is it? Everything missed, and Stefan could be a bit steaming after that unsuccessful ace-8 bluff. Jaser holding king of spades, which is not very helpful. He blocks ace-king of spades and king-jack of spades, although actually ace-king could have value c-bet flop, so that's not that relevant. It's tough to get this bluff through unless you go all in for like 3x spot. Wow. Jaser shows some heart here. And he probably thinks Stefan is still too wide here and will have hard time finding enough bluff catching combos. King in his hand doesn't look that bad now. It blocks king queen, so that helps a bit. And Solver likes shoving here if out of position decides to bluff, and actually does it with king 10 quite a bit here, but let's keep in mind that its weight is very, very low here. So remember it had king 10 to raise turn only in like 0.1% of the cases, so if Jaser does it at higher frequency, he just simply can't afford bluffing it so much on the river. But what Jaser did, his overall strategy should include a lot of bluffing all in. a lot of overbetting. I don't see many players overbet this type of river as a bluff, especially as a bluff in my games. If Chaser does raise at really low frequency on the turn with this combo, this is very good river shove. Will Stefan find the call? Yes, he will. He probably 10 called because he had King Queen here, which is pretty close to a fold. It's around 0 EV hand, but if Jacer overbluffs here, which is possible considering he showed up with this combo here, then King Queen becomes profitable call. Well played again by Stefan, and massive respect for Jacer for that 3x river shove. Pretty cool play, although probably a bit losing play against Stefan. You can try our software for free. It has fully functional 3-day trial, so really no reason not to try it. That's it for today, guys. Remember, if you're not sure how to play the spot, you can always check CheckMath. See ya.